Welcome. This is Thriving One, episode 6.5, and I'll explain that shortly if I remember. We'll put that down there so I don't knock it down. First thing is the truth disclaimer. Don't mistake anything you hear here for the truth. It's just some stuff I believe, I suspect, or I think I've seen, but sometimes I see things you don't. We're going to talk about 6.5 because after episode 6, I have some friends who like me, who have experience with these sort of deals. My friend Jeb, and he only did his stuff for like 20 years, so what would he know? He suggested that I should have, in the very first episode, answered some basic questions. So I'm going to try and answer those basic questions. You remember last time we talked about C's? I got a really nice piece of feedback from one lady who viewed it and said it made her seasick. But that's okay. I think she'll tune in for episode 6.5. Today's thriving tip: ask for help when you think you need it. Then accept the help. Then thank the people or other life forms for the help. Okay, meanwhile, back at 6.5. And my thought processes jump around a little bit now and then. Here in 6.5 reminds me I worked with a young man, and he was all scruffy and he had dreadlocks and, a scraggly beard that only the teenagers can make, that scraggly beard. And he told me in his evaluation that he was in a band. And I said, cool, what's the name of your band? And he said, 6.5. And that just tickled me to death. But anyway, back at what we're doing, some of the questions that Jeb suggested, and my friend Jeff also kicked the tires on this, and my friend Raymond suggested these things months ago, but I didn't accept that help. Okay, the first question that a competent person would ask in the beginning is, why are you doing this, Oscar? There are several reasons. The primary one is that in recent months and years, my mental abilities have been declining. I'm having trouble remembering stuff. Sometimes I try to say a word and I can't say that word, so I say another word. I was thanking my wife for a burrito she brought me. I like the meat and potato burritos at Taco John's, and I said, thank you for the meat and burrito sock. And that wasn't right. And she made fun of me. I said, well, it kind of looks like a sock. But anyway, she's still giggling somewhere probably. But my mental stuff was on decline, and what I heard from a lot of people, because I run around sometimes with a lot of people my age, the ones that haven't died, and they say, well, they say it's a real good idea to try doing something you've never done before, and that makes new neural pathways. Then I said, okay, well, this computer stuff and camera stuff, I don't know a darn thing. I almost said damn. I don't know a darn thing about that. And that's my own fault. My ignorance is my own fault. I had a buddy, he died now, but Billy got into this computer stuff like way back in the beginning, where you had that tower and a TV monitor, that was all big, or something called Earl was important, and the WWW. And I remember going over to his house once to play cards, and he was doing all that, and I said, Billy, this is really dumb. I said, you've wasted all this money. I said, this is just a fad. In 6 months, you're going to have all this crap on a garage sale. And I was wrong. But he didn't put me on the garage sale. So anyway, I'm doing this because it is a brand new thing. One of the other reasons is that over my life I've hung around a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists and social workers and alcohol and drug counselors And I have trained myself, as part of my little thriving thing, to listen carefully to what people say, but over a period of time, you can become aware of what people don't say. And very few people who have dedicated their lives to helping people with mental or substance abuse problems, very few of those people ever say the word thriving. Maybe in the next episode I'll tell you why. But today I just like to say it because they don't. And it seemed out of whack to me. The electronic ether is all full of what's wrong. You know, I can go on the email or go on the Facebook thing, and you know, there's a crisis and there's chaos and there's murder and there's mayhem and just all full of what's wrong. And I wanted to put some stuff out that wasn't all about what's wrong, but maybe some things that might be right or could be right, or that you're already doing right and not giving yourself credit for. The other reason, and I probably should have listed this as number 2, is I really like being the center of attention, and I love to show off. And I got a surprise with that, because all I'm showing off for is the people in here who nicely gave me this cup. No, we're not selling them yet, and don't make an offer, okay? Those are the only audience, and I've done a lot of comedy shows with live audiences, and these guys are alive, okay, but they put themselves on mute while the camera's on. So the next one, and this one came from Jeb. Jeb said, "Why are you driven to do this?" I am not driven to do this. I'm doing the driving. I chose this. Now, if that sounds conceited or arrogant, I have communicated clearly. So, next one was, my friend suggested that I explain what's so good about this thriving thing. Why would people want to thrive or know about thriving? One reason is it is better than boredom and blaming and bitterness, social isolation, and emotional starvation. Those things are in abundance in the current time and place we live. Another thing it does is, because self-evaluation is such a big piece of thriving, according to me, that self-awareness helps people be more adaptable as things around them change and as things inside of us change. Thriving increases something a social worker would call self-determination, which means you're picking your own purposes and not necessarily just grabbing on to some that someone tried to impose on you or offered you without you considering alternatives. Thriving can be tremendously entertaining and fun for you and those around you. It can also increase your trust in yourself, which sometimes leads to other people trusting you. One of the other things, it increases our freedom to live our life not according to the scripts that someone else wrote for us. Now, this is a question I was really kind of scared of. And this here was also a gift from my oldest son. It warms my coffee because I just sip my coffee, and usually it's too cold to drink after about here. And I got a coffee can back here I'd pour it into, and my oldest son found out about that, so he would get me a coffee warmer, and he actually did it. But anyway, this next question is a little spooky, is, can thriving go wrong? Well, the answer to that is only if there are humans involved. Yeah, things can happen wrong. If you're doing thriving, especially that integrity part, You can be doing the exact right thing you ought to be doing, that you believe you ought to be doing, and can be very painful for you and sometimes for the people around you. There are costs. Now, oftentimes, and we're still talking about what can go wrong, you get that increased trust in yourself, and that's pretty swell. And then as you operate, whether you're at work or in a social setting or, a chat group online, I've heard of those, haven't tried one yet, okay? Other people can begin to trust in you. And then sometimes when you see other people trusting you, you get a boost in your own confidence. And that's nice. Except confidence is about that far away from arrogance. Okay? And I know because I can travel that far on a regular basis. Okay? And sometimes when we get, let me say it for me, sometimes in my arrogance, okay, I don't only believe that I have some solutions, I believe that I'm the only one with solutions. That just irritates the poop out of normal humans. Okay, unless you're in a situation where the normal humans buy into your arrogance and say, yeah, you are the only one with right answers. And then it can get really destructive in a situation, whether it's a family situation, a work situation, a friendship, because then they get to relying on you and their trust in themselves diminishes. The other thing it's important to point out is the coffee warmer doesn't work unless you set the coffee on it. See, that it doesn't work from over. It's not like, doesn't have teleportation. And one of the ways I like to talk about that is I truly believe that I don't just have magic, I believe I am magic. But see, I believe all of us are magic. And me having some doesn't mean that the people around me don't have magic. And when I'm in that arrogant mode on the wrong side of this, it's like, oh, you ain't even heard of magic. And and that can be a pain. And the other thing is, especially in a work situation, if people get confidence in you, they trust you, they buy into your arrogance and think you're the only one with the answers, that can turn you into a lightning rod. So anytime there's a problem, they come to you and you're supposed to pull the hat out of the rabbit. That's a magic trick. Okay, anybody can pull a rabbit out of a hat. You pull a hat out of a rabbit, you're the man. Okay, so the next question was, what does the viewer get out of this podcast? Okay, well, I said something about that to my friend Richard, and he said, well, don't they decide that? And I said, sit down, I didn't write that down, we're not going to talk about that, and I've made that into a lie. How dare you think you have, anyway. What's the viewer get? What I hope the viewer gets is a buffet of notions about ways people practice thriving. And they'll notice, oh, they've had these items on the buffet for a long time. They're already doing them. And then they might see some other stuff they might want to take a taste of. Isn't that nice? I like those little analogy things. We don't know if y'all do until the analytics come back from this. Let's see. Who am I trying to reach? This is the first time I've done this, and I wanted to limit the target population. Okay, so I limited it. There are hundreds of thousands of species, and I thought on Earth, and I just thought I'd try for a limited audience among those species. So I've decided that the target audience is only humans for now. We may expand it later. Okay. Today's aphorisms. Supposed to take a sip of coffee if you got it up here. That's really good. And warm. Yeah, I turned it on. Today's aphorism. To me, thriving people have a lot in common with diamonds. Diamonds start off as lumps of coal. And there are tremendous pressures put on that coal, just like the pressures that come into all of our lives. And those pressures condense the coal and form a very rough diamond. And then the diamond, with skillful handling and care and paying attention, can shape itself with the help of the people around it into something beautiful. The other thing about diamonds that is a common trait with thriving people, they are almost impossible to shatter. Next time, we're going to do barriers to thriving. Want you to know that any rebroadcast, retransmission, or reproduction of the contents of this podcast without the express written consent of me is flattering. There is just one us.